Hi guys, okay, in the percussion revolver series, I haven't posted a video in a while. I wanted to answer a question that I had a really nice discussion with a young lady last night that she's getting into cowboy action shooting and she really enjoys shooting the percussion revolver type deal. And what her question was what was the most economical gun? That way you get the most shooting for the least expense. Well, there's certain factors you can affect and certain factors you can't. Caps are going to cost the same for any of the models, so that's a given. So what we can make the difference in is in powder and lead, okay? And you're going to save a lot of money by casting your own lead balls, okay? But even then, what you're casting can add up. So let's look at it from an economic standpoint. You're wanting a cap and ball revolver to go out for fun, for enjoyment. You're not planning on using it for anything serious. What you're going to be doing is shooting tin cans, paper targets, steel plates, something like that. So all I need is it to go bang and impact the target. That's it, right? So with that in mind, and maybe some small game hunting, shoot a bunny or something, okay? So therefore, let's look at the economics of it. Okay, when I went to school back when dinosaurs roamed the earth in mass numbers, we were taught that 1 pound equaled 7,000 grains. So 16 ounces is a pound the world around. A pound is 7,000 grains, no matter what we're talking about. A pound of sand, a pound of powder, a pound of lead, whatever. Okay, so a pound of lead and a pound of powder. Let's look under lead. Okay. For the round ball, 451 round ball averages somewhere around 140 grains in weight. That means you should get somewhere around 50 rounds for a pound of lead. Okay? That's in 44 caliber. In a 36 caliber, that's a 375, it's an 80 grain ball, and that gives you 87 bullets for the pound, okay? And in the little bitty pocket guns, the 32s, that's a 319 ball, it's a 50 grain weight, and that gives you 140 bullets per pound. So if I had a pound of lead, and I'm looking for the maximum amount of shooting, the 36 is going to get almost, not quite, but almost 3 times as much shooting out of a single pound of lead, okay? Now let's look at the conicals. Okay. For a Johnson & Dow bullet, that's 217 grains. You're going to get 32 of them to the pound in the 44. In the Colt design conical for the 36, it's 126 grains, and you're going to get 55 of them. And finally, for the 31 caliber, the conical is 80 grains. Notice that the conical in the 32 is exactly the same weight as the round ball is in the 36 caliber belt gun. It's small diameter but same weight, so it gives it a bigger hit, obviously. But there's 87 per pound in that. So if I'm running my little moles, if I'm going to be going for longer range, I'd want the more pointy conical, okay? So 32 to a pound, 55 to a pound, or 87 to a pound. Again, the smaller calibers, whereas the 36 seems to work out well. That's one of the reasons I like 36s. For just planking, target shooting small game, the 36 is very economical. Now let's look at powder. Okay, under powder, under a Walker, you're going to have a 50 grain charge. Of course you can dial down, but we're talking about maximums here. Okay, so I've got a Walker with a 50 grain charge. I'd get 140 shots out of a pound of powder. When you're doing 5 shots in a cylinder, 20 cylinders, 5 times 20 is 100 shots. So 20 and then 28 cylinders. So how many times? Reload 28 times. That's a pound of powder just went down range. Gives you a rough idea. For a Dragoon, it's a 40 grain charge. That's 175 loads. For an 1860 Army, which was a 35 grain charge, that's 200 shots. We're getting pretty good now. You know, that's, you know, a lot more. That's 40 reloads. For the 51 Navy at 30 grains, that's 230 reloads. For a 51 pocket model, that's where it's the 62 pocket police or the 62 pocket Navy, where it's a 36 caliber, but it's on the smaller 31 frame. 20 grain charge, that's going to give you 350 shots, and the little bitty pocket gun in 31 caliber with 15 grains is going to give you 465 shots. Now you can see one of the selling points of why the small pocket guns were the big #1 volume seller for Colt. One, they were not as expensive to purchase. Two, they were very economical to function, because a pound of lead gave me 140 bullets or 87 conicals, and a pound of powder gave me 465 shots. You know, hey, all my little bitty mold and my little bitty powder measure, that's a lot of shooting for that little pocket gun. That's a lot of ammunition. And most people carried those as a personal defense gun. Now today we kind of scoff at it, as it's not very powerful. True. Its performance in real world is kind of like somewhere between a 22 long rifle and a 22 Magnum, really. But then again, I tote a 22 quite often as a kit gun for small game. So it can be viable, again, in the parameters that we're talking about, as a field gun for target practice and to just potting bunnies and small game. Yeah, it does a good job for that, and would be very economical for me to carry, you know, as far as my money for getting more shooting out of it. Whereas the Walker, man, those things are hard to feed. And that's one of the reasons the U.S. military, yes, there was a metallurgy problem, and they shortened the cylinders to bring the powder charge down. But even then, by the Civil War, they had dropped that powder charge down even further, down to it was like 35 grains. And because they didn't need that much power. It was just as lethal with 35 grains as it was with the higher grains, but we're saving powder. And when you're a U.S. military and you're paying to have cartridges made, every little bit of savings equals more ammunition, see? And so just looking at the difference between 35 and 40, I got 25 more shots from a 1860 than I did out of a Dragoon. And that, when you start multiplying by how many guns, you can see why. So for the answer of economics, if you're getting into cap and ball and your interest is strictly, I just want to target shoot, I want to have fun, I want to enjoy it, I recommend a 36. It's got enough power for what it's going to do. It's very easy to load it down and utilize lighter powder charges. The cost for lead, I get 87 balls to the pound. That's pretty good, you know. And that's an 80 grain bullet. If I go with a conical 126 grain bullet, which is, you know, more than adequate, gives me more penetration. I've got a choice there, a power band I can play with, a load capability I can play with. But the price of caps is going to be the same. If the pound of powder is the same, if the price of lead is the same, I get more shooting with the smaller calibers. I hope this clarifies it a little bit. But a lot of guys back in the day, you remember, they didn't have a lot of money. And these guns were kind of expensive for them. So for a miner or something sitting in the gold fields of California, Pocket 31 for point blank personal defense between me and that guy on the other side of the card table was more than adequate. And I got a lot of ammo for a pound of powder and a lot of ammo for a pound of lead. And that's one of the reasons that people chose them. Size, compact, and amount of shooting. Hope you enjoyed this video, guys. If you did, please hit that like button before you go. And until next time, I'm Blackie, wishing you safe journeys. Have a great day, guys.